What's up, Soul Family? Coming at you this time with a reading about... Okay, maybe it's a warning reading. It's like, take care or there will be loss in financial wealth. Or I'm sorry, it'll take care or there will be loss of material wealth. So it looks like this reading is kind of like a little bit of a warning, so let's jump right in. If you're interested in a one-on-one reading, you can directly message me or book with the reading in my bio. The first reading is $20 for 20 minutes. You could ask whatever question, or I can just pull and see what comes out. If it doesn't resonate, I'll just refund you. Then we have mice, which is discord among friends or family. And then frying pan, which is trouble, accusations. I'm going to pull one more tea leaf, I'm feeling it. And then mountain with major challenges to overcome. Again, I'm never one to try and put fear into anybody's experience, especially when it comes to manifesting something. But I do feel like if the message is meant to come through, a message is meant to come through. So I'm just going to trust that it's here for a reason. So then we have the Wheel of Fortune. So I think that's a lot of the energy of maybe you're going through cycles. Maybe you're like ending out a cycle. Because the Wheel of Fortune a lot of times has to do with like sometimes us spinning on the circle over and over and over again until we get out of it. And there's so many different ways that we end up breaking cycles, but we might not always be aware of what it is until we are actually presented with the option to do such. For instance, like there are countless times where people like will do like a road opening spell or a money spell, or they set the intention because they really want to start like a business or something, and then out of nowhere it's like they lose their job or they get fired or they quit their job out of nowhere, or some weird circumstance happens that kind of like pushes them in a direction that might then present them with the opportunity to make different choices. So with this, I feel like with the Wheel of Fortune and the other cards prior to that, I think it could be that maybe there is like some form of like challenge or difficulty that could be coming, and there's a need to be very mindful of maybe conserving your money and being mindful about how you spend it, to be careful before that situation happens. Especially if you feel like you're in a really shady job environment, sometimes you can pick up on red flags of job environments, and sometimes we tend to ignore them. And I think it's very important that we are mindful of them, especially if we just feel like something's off. Then trust that. Trust that you feel like, trust your feelings, trust your gut, and act accordingly. I'm not saying to, and there's a big difference between like intuition and anxiety. Intuition's very calm. Intuition, many times it's like, okay, I feel this, I'm not going to overreact, I'm not going to be like spiraling out over it. I just have a feeling, so now I'm going to respond in tandem to the feeling that I'm having. Versus anxiety, which is kind of like, oh my god, I have to do this. Is this going to happen? I think this is happening. This might happen. I feel like this is going to happen. Like, they're two different energies. So be very mindful that I'm not just... Your job could be perfectly fine, and be mindful that I'm not putting fear into you if you don't feel like there's anything there to begin with. So I always want to say, be very discerning with whatever reading you get, even if it's from me, and make sure that it's something that actually applies to your experience, and you're not like... Because our minds, what they will do sometimes is find reasons to agree and validate whatever experience we're having. So make sure it's not that that's a scenario where this isn't the case for you, this isn't necessarily resonating, but your mind is in overdrive looking for signs, and now you're kind of here. But let's jump back into the main reading for who this is for. So I just dropped like 5 cards. So I'm going to pick those up and we'll call it a day. I'll also do the bottom of the deck. So we have the 6 of Cups on the bottom, and I'll pick those cards that dropped in a second. Alright, I don't normally take this many cards. So we have the 6 of Cups on the bottom, the Knight of Swords, then we have the 2 of Swords, the 3 of Pentacles, the 10 of Wands, the Queen of Wands, and then the King of Swords. So I feel like already there is a really strong need to, like, especially the King of Swords and the Knight of Swords, be proactive in setting out whatever boundaries are needed to be set, taking action as far as, like, be proactive. If you feel like something's off, be proactive and start taking steps towards resolving it. Be very intelligent, be very mindful and strategic with how you're moving. And if you feel like something's off, something might be. And then especially with the Queen of Wands, it makes me feel like you have the energy of whatever you need. So you're somebody who's powerful. You're somebody whose energy is potent and capable of, it's like stepping into your authenticity. So trust that you have what is needed to get you through whatever situation that might be arising or whatever situation you're going through. And again, it could be exhausting, right? The 10 of Wands is like the straw that broke the camel's back. So maybe this reading is even like that sign that broke the camel's back. Maybe you're kind of like, you know what? I haven't picked up on these red flags. I haven't seen these things, and I'm not paying attention to them. And this could be like the confirmation that you just need to get the fuck out of Dodge. Because sometimes jobs just be shady. Like, that's just how it is. The last job I had quite literally wanted us to start manipulating older people and people who didn't speak English and start putting things on their account for the sake of numbers. Like, I was quite literally advised, and I would get in trouble if I would not, take advantage of people in the last job environment that I was in. So it's important to be mindful of seeing red flags and acting on them. So sometimes we just have to act and move without having all the information. And sometimes we are kind of left in the dark and really uncertain of what we are trying to accomplish or where we're trying to head. But we just have to trust that our intuition is getting us out of whatever situation that we're getting out of. Because our intuition sometimes works behind the scenes. It's not always seen how things are unfolding for us, especially if we don't perceivably have all the pieces. Sometimes all we have is just a gut feeling or intuition, and it's always best to act on that to the best of our ability. So with the Three of Pentacles, I'd like to say that this could be, it seems like it's mostly around work or something along those lines. And maybe there is like some kind of minor family issues or troubles or disagreements. And if that is the case, then this is a card that would point towards, I would like to say, the resolution of whatever situation in your family or paradigm that you could be trying to navigate. So maybe there's the energy of there being conflict, there being tension. Maybe there's like the energy of there being something in your family paradigm that needs to be addressed. And with the King of Swords and the Knight of Swords, I think and the Knight of Swords, I'd like to say this is pointing towards being proactive about resolving it in whatever capacity that you are. Sometimes you have to be able to be the one to step into the world to take control of things, or to at least try and be the mediator, or to, be the person to not be confrontational. We don't always have to be confrontational, but there are ways we can then resolve conflict with, addressing it and acknowledging that, there is something there's something that needs to be taken care of, even if it's like something that might be subtle. You never know how the subtle things can lead into something bigger. Or if it is bigger, then you never know the capacity that you have to then maybe resolve it, even if it seems like it's something that is major. So with the King of Swords and the Knight of Swords, I'd like to think that there is a need to take action, and you have the capacity to do such. And with the King of Swords, you don't necessarily, I think the downside of the King of Swords is when you use your intellect to be sharp-witted versus actually like compassionate and kind. Our words can tear people down or they can build people up. So sometimes it's not a matter of the fact that there is conflict, but a matter of how we handle it. Even if you are in the right, how you convey your perspective and how you communicate that can make all the difference in how things pop out or turn out. So be very mindful of how you address the situation. And sometimes you just gotta curse somebody the fuck out. But many times, I'd argue a high majority of the times, approaching a situation with kindness and compassion will be ages or bring you miles farther than being condescending or petty or whatever else, in the moment. And then with the Six of Cups on the bottom, I'd like to think that, yeah, this could be the energy of maybe it's family issues, or maybe it is the energy of something that's a little bit more personal. So I'd be very mindful, especially the ones that we care about, with how we approach situations and how we resolve them and how we communicate what our frustrations are. And it's okay sometimes to have the tone of frustration or be, angry in the moment, but it's not, you don't necessarily have to be rude or be harsh or be unkind while you are expressing that frustration. And sometimes it's better to simply wait until you're in a calmer state and then respond. But either way, I think whenever there are warnings, it's always just a matter of us taking care, seeing the signs in the warning, and then if we act differently before the actual situation kind of, comes to pass, then we are able to shift the timeline that we're on. So any reading that I ever do, I'm never going to tell you that this is the future of what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you that this might be the path that is currently unfolding, and you have the capacity and all the power to then shift it. And sometimes there are situations that are out of our control and we're not able to fully do much. But there are many times when warnings come up, we have the ability and the agency to change what's going to go down. So that being said, peace and blessings. I will catch you guys in the next reading.